Sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. Everything that's wonderful is what I feel.
Hi everyone, I'm Loukia Mastrodimos, and I'm so excited to be here today as part of the Train of Positivity Virtual Summit. So let me share a little bit about myself before I dive into today's topic and the message I'd like to share with you. First thing to know about me is I'm a lifelong educator. I love learning and I love teaching and I love coaching. I spent over 20 years in public high schools having roles from teacher to coach to administrator. I've also dabbled in the corporate and nonprofit world. My current adventure is as an entrepreneur. It's exciting and scary all at the same time. Just a couple weeks ago, I celebrated my 50th birthday, and I'm welcoming that new decade in with joy and gratitude. I am a well-life coach for midlife women, a podcast host, and CEO and founder of my company, Midlife and Bold, a virtual online coaching business with the sole purpose of helping women in the middle transform their lives so that they have no regrets. I help women overcome their fears and move forward with confidence, clarity, and purpose so that they have no regrets. Basically, I help these women get unstuck. And I help them do it without guilt, because a lot of times when you get to be my age or even older, women in the middle, we're not used to putting ourselves first, and we have a lot of guilt about making our dreams come true. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. I help women in the middle create that what's next for me phase without the fear and guilt so that they can have no regrets. And that's what I'm going to talk to you today about is how to get unstuck. So a lot of my clients come to me at this point when they just feel that they want something more, but they're stuck. They don't know how to move forward. And let me tell you, there's a lot of reason to be stuck this year. So I'm going to share with you my 3-step formula. It's very easy to remember on how you can get unstuck. And because I'm a former educator, it's as simple as A, B, C. So let me start with letter A. So A stands for accept. So the first step to getting unstuck is to accept that 2 things. Nothing is going to be perfect the first time you try it, so there will be trial and error. And I want you to understand that when you try something, it's going to not have to fall into that all or nothing category. So something is better than nothing. So accept that something is better than nothing. And number 2, accept that whatever you try, it's not going to be perfect the first time. I don't think anything I've tried the first time has turned out well, whether that's a cake I'm baking or a huge life transformation. So the thing to remember is that we have evidence all around us of people failing and then succeeding, whether that's an inventor, a creator, a writer, an athlete. Eventually, we see these people rise. We see the J.K. Rowling in the best-selling book after years of struggle. We see athletes like in my day, Michael Jordan, receive all these accolades when he, seems like he's an overnight success, but it took him 10 years to get there. So all you need to embrace in order to get unstuck is that it's okay if it's not perfect, because there's really no such thing as perfect. You just have to take that mindset of, I'm going to try this and we'll see if it works. The other big thing about accept that something is better than nothing. Let me use weight loss for an example. I, at one point, was about 50 or 60 pounds heavier than I am now. And that number of pounds I wanted to lose was so overwhelming to me that I did nothing. I did nothing about it for years. I didn't exercise. I continued to eat poorly. And that's because the end result, that 60-pound weight loss, was so overwhelming to me. But guess what? Doing nothing just led to more weight gain. So if I accepted that something was better than nothing, where could I start? Where could I get unstuck and move forward is the question my coach asked me when I started this process. And you know where I started? I just cut back on a few things, and then I started walking and doing some minor movement, and the rest is history. I've lost most of the weight I've kept off. I've lost a lot of weight, and most of it I've kept off. So it doesn't matter what your endeavor is. Maybe it's making a massive career change, and it seems so daunting because you need certifications and training. Well, just try something. Try networking with someone in that field and maybe see if it's really the field you want to go into, or maybe try taking online courses at night while you're still holding down the other job. So the way to move forward on letter A, accept, is to accept that something is better than nothing. and that the first step you take is going to be imperfect. So accept that imperfect action is where you live for a while. And I will tell you, if you can take the mindset of that alone, just accept that something is better than nothing and that imperfect action is going to get you closer to your goal, then you're on the right track. All right, let's dive into letter B. B is for busting your excuses. Yep, I'm going to talk about excuses because I used to use a lot of them. So one of my favorite quotes is, excuses are the lies we tell ourselves so that it doesn't have to be our fault. Woo, when I first read that, I was like, hey, are they talking to me? Because I had all kinds of excuses. I had no time, I had a stressful job, I had an awful boss, I had no money, blah, blah, blah. They were all excuses, but after a while, because I was telling them to myself for so long, I started to believe them. So what you have to do is what I call a personal reckoning in this phase. You just want to write down everything that you're stuck on, whether it's weight loss or finances or relationships or careers, and really have a moment of truth with yourself and say, is this really valid? Is this true that I can't move forward because of this? Or am I stuck because I'm telling myself these things? And part of that, and I'll get into this a little later, is fear, because the unknown is scary. Hello, 2020, lots of unknowns. So part of busting through your excuses is also acknowledging your fears. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a bit. So letter B, bust your excuses. All right, letter C is about choice. So no matter where you are in the process of being stuck, making a choice is important. And maybe it's a choice to move forward with that imperfect action. Maybe it's a choice to not move forward, and that's okay too. You see, women come to me with different seasons of life, as I call it. Some are empty nesters, some still have kids in high school or college, and sometimes there's just not enough time in the day to do everything, and that's valid. So you have to make a choice either way. Whatever you decide, you're going to be closer to your goal. And with the choice that you make, here's the big important thing to remember. Only control you have over the choices is you. You have no control over whether your spouse wants to do this weight loss thing with you, or whether or not, you can convince a friend to do something with you. Your choice is that alone, yours. And the biggest place that you have a choice in, the biggest place, say that you have a choice in, is your mindset. So you can choose to react negatively, you can choose positivity. It's all a choice. Your mind is your most powerful tool, so just remember that. So the ABCs to getting unstuck. Letter A, accept, and that's accept that something is better than nothing. Accept that imperfect action is probably going to be the result of the first step that you take. Letter B, bust those excuses. So really have that reckoning with yourself and get real about whether or not the excuses are valid, or if they're just stories you're telling yourself, or you're living in fear, because that's a possibility. And letter C, choice. The only choice you have is the one that you make, because only you can control you. You have no control over anyone else's territory or the outcome. And the choice you have is really to choose the mindset that takes you forward instead of staying stuck. So I mentioned fear. Let me talk a little bit about fear here. Fear is nothing more than false evidence appearing real. That is the acronym I use every time I get a story going in my head. We spend hours, days, a week, sometimes years talking in our heads about fear-based things that can happen. Well, if I make this massive change, or if I do this, look at all these things that can happen. I call it catastrophizing. So if we have the ability to project forward in the future and live in fear, can't we do the opposite? Can't we project forward and live in possibility and hope? So if you find yourself stuck, it's really a good exercise. What false evidence, or maybe story, as I've said before, is appearing real, that really is just a story and a reel that keeps playing in your head? Because that's also a big factor in keeping you stuck. So that is what I have for you today. The ABCs of getting unstuck, with a little side of maybe fear is holding you back as well. And maybe that's playing into your excuses and your choices. So I hope this message resonates with you, whether or not you are stuck in a rut, whether or not you are facing a big decision, or Maybe it's just your day-to-day actions feel a little stale and you realize, yeah, I feel a little stuck now that you're saying that. Use this method and see if it helps. If you'd like to connect with me, I'm very social, so find me on Instagram at Midlife in Bold. Also on Facebook by the same name of my business, Midlife in Bold. I also have a podcast that comes out on Tuesdays. It's called This Midlife in Bold, on a little hiatus until season 2 starts in August, but you can go back and listen to season 1. And if you really want to get a hold of me and maybe book a call with me to see if I can help you, just send me an email at loukia@midlifeinbold.com. And last but not least, feel free to visit my website and learn a little bit more about me at www.midlifeinbold.com. Thanks, everybody. Let's stay positive out there. Have a great day.
Thanks so much for joining us for the Train of Positivity Virtual Summit. We hope you choose to have a great day. Please be sure to check out other positive influencers throughout the summit. And if you enjoyed this specific talk, feel free to like and subscribe and share with other positive humans through your favorite social media outlets using the hashtag #TrainOfPositivity.